Do you want to fling boats? As you read in the title, I'll be teaching you how to make your very own BattleBot. I'm not going to be teaching you how to copy my build. I'm going to teach you how to build your own, so you can advance from that, make entirely different bots like this, but have just as much quality. So I'll be sharing with you all the tips I know, such as the basic ones like driving, steering, self-right system, and many more.
Alright, so fast forward 2 months. I've been slacking. Let's get to it. So, you see this, it looks really intimidating, but believe me, it's much easier than it really looks once you get the hang of it. So first, place a post on any point of grass, like so. Then, I recommend getting titanium or whatever block you have most of. Titanium also looks really nice in bots, so I choose it. Scale this piece to however long you want, but make sure it's not too small. Now, I'm going to duplicate this and put it on this side. Now, I'm going to make it about, I'm going to say 6 blocks high, and then I'm going to get a wheel. Now, I recommend using titanium again, but you can use any block. And make your spinner however big you want, and make sure it does not touch the ground. And also, I recommend giving yourself a little gap, just in case you flip and you won't glitch and your spinner won't touch the floor. I'm going to make the wheels 50% transparency to make sure you understand this. Your spinner block may go anywhere within the wheel, but it may not touch this gray square of the wheel. If it touches this piece right here, your spinner block will not move whatsoever. But if you leave yourself a little gap right here, it'll function just fine. So I'm doing the same for both sides. I'm just going to be simple. I'm going to put 2 of these posts right here. Now you want to make sure your spinner is exact same height up here too. So if you forgot how big this is, you can always duplicate it and make sure the white line is about the middle of your wheel. Then make sure there's no more Z fighting. And continue making your design. I'm just going to make it blue, because why not? So now I have my spinner, but now I need to have wheels to make it drive. Now you could put your wheels on the outside and make them invisible, but this just makes a really big hitbox for you, and I wouldn't do it. So I like to put my wheels on the inside of the bot instead. Now in some cases, I may not have enough room to safely put the steering wheels without the spinner hitting, so I do end up putting them on the outside. There's a way you can bypass this. You see, if you use the pilot seat, you don't need steering wheels to steer, but I'll talk more about that later. For now, we'll just do this. So make them completely invisible. I'm going to put them back 3 studs. Next, just to make it look nicer, I'm going to cover up this top. And again, make sure your wheels aren't actually touching anything. Now, if you're not sure if your spinner is actually going to hit this piece right here, scale your roof back 2 studs, then duplicate it, and turn this piece here to a smaller piece, but then turn off collision. Now, your spinner will have no chance of hitting it, and it's a pretty low chance that somebody's going to walk into this very area that's uncollisioned. Now I'm making a support to put my seat at. If the wheels aren't connecting to your seat, use the wrench tool, select the wheels, and not the wheels that are attached to the spinner. So next, connect your spinner wheels to your seat. Also, an important thing I forgot to mention, always set your spinner wheels to reverse spin, that way they can uppercut the other bots. If you find that your BattleBot keeps flipping upside down and can't flip back over, here's how you fix that. I'm going to teach you how to add a self-right system. So first, get a block. I'm going to use titanium. I'm going to put it in the back like this. I'm going to scale that up. You can use a wheel for this, but for mobile players, I'm using a servo. Drag it out, give more torque, and connect it to a lever right on the wall right here. Now you can unanchor it to see if it works. Click the lever. And you can also change the servo angle, in which I like to set it to 90. Now, this should definitely work. So I'm going to flip myself over to prove to you that this works.
Nice.
The horizontal, it really isn't that much different. Make whatever shape you want. And I'm going to duplicate these two and raise them up a little bit. Now I'm going to make a floor. And now I'm going to get a wheel with a spinner. And I'm going to try to place it in the center. Now, if you can't tell where the center is, use your trowel tool. Click the part. And usually, where this straight line is, that's the center. Next, I'd make sure it doesn't start Z-fighting, so it looks better. And make your spinner like so. Now, I see my spinner block is touching my bot here, so I'm going to lower this. So now I have my design for the spinner, and now we're going to put the wheels. I'm going to scale this in here, and I'm only going to put 2 wheels. My reasoning for this is because now I'm going to teach you how to use the pilot seat to drive. And you may still use the regular seat for horizontal spinner, but sometimes it may be hard to steer because your spinner is spinning one way. Here I'm making a place to put my seat at. And of course, like I said, I'm using the pilot seat, where you can buy from the jetpack, which is a little pricey. Nah. Anyways, I see my seat is kind of sticking out here, so I'm going to tuck it in a bit. Totally not making a Build-A-Boat tutorial. I'm going to delete this post, and I'm going to place a lever. I'm going to paint this real quick. Next, once you're done painting and designing, make sure your seat is not connected to anything. Select everything and attach it to the lever. You can turn up the torque of the wheels to help it drive better. I don't set my spinner torque to max because sometimes that can make the bot really glitchy. So I'm going to set it to the middle. Now I'm going to unanchor. And let's test it. And of course, you can always use reverse spin to make your spinner spin the other way. Wait, who's driving that? You guessed it. We're going to place a post. Titanium, of course. I'm going to make this a bit taller. Place one block. Then place another. Delete this one and rotate 45 degrees. Make it so it looks like this. Now scale it so it looks right. Have it about at least this much in width. Now you want to make sure that this part right here isn't going farther down than this. So we're going to place a temporary block. I'm going to make it partially transparent so you guys can see. So I don't want it to be going any further than that so far. So it's about right here where I want it to stop. Duplicate the piece here. Drag it down about 2 studs. Scale this down so it looks like that. Select it, rotate it by 15 degrees. So you want it to look something like this. I'm going to make this piece less thick so it doesn't go below this piece right here. I'm going to scale it out. And this seems nice, so now I'm going to scale it into this thing here. And it kind of looks like there's a gap, so I'm going to use the trowel tool to try to make this look more perfect. Now, I'm going to convert this wedge into 3 parts. So by using the scale of 2, have a look like this. Copy paste. And do the same for this piece here. Now this middle piece here is going to be the flipper block. So you want to make sure your flipper block is not touching anything else other than the wheel. So you can make this as close as possible, but make sure it is not connecting. So let's go add some wheels. And I'm going to do the pilot seat again because I like it the best. But you can always choose differently. This is a temporary block here. Make sure this piece is not touching your roof whatsoever. So as you see, the outer pieces are touching, which is okay because this is not going to be the flipper part right here. So now I'm going to make a floor to put my seat at. Connecting the wheels to the lever. At this point, we're actually going to make the flipper function now. So get an old school wheel. And place it about here. Make sure it is only touching the block that you want to be flipping. So kind of like this. Pick any block if you're choosing. I'm just going to use wood. Place it around here. Make sure it is not touching the black. And scale it into your bot. And I recommend making it pretty thin and small, because this is going to be invisible and no collision. And my reason for this is that this invisible block here is going to hold this wheel in place so that it can actually flip. I'm going to raise the torque to about the middle, and I usually connect it to the seat with the keybinds of E and Q. But if you're on mobile, you may have to do that trick with the servo I used to make a self-rise system earlier. To make the flipper, you would use a lever, because you have no keybinds or E and Q. Now when this rotates here, it might end up hitting your roof, so I'm going to scale it back one stud. I'm going to duplicate this and do that trick with the no collision piece like I did to make that roof earlier. So now this piece is no collision, and hopefully this block will not end up interfering with it. Next, you don't want your flipper rotating under your bot, because that will just fling you out of the arena. So we're going to make a support that stops this from rotating too far down. So duplicate this part here, and make sure it is not touching. So here you can see I'm leaving a small gap. I'm going to scale this to where it's about right here. Now I'm going to pull it out, like that. Move this down, like that. And now I'm going to connect this piece right here to a wall. And by the way, you can make this piece here invisible and no collision, so you can still walk through here. I'm also going to make this invisible, but I'm going to leave collision on just to make it look better. Now you can begin painting. I'm going to delete this part here, and this too. One other thing, you may not want your flipper going too high up and over. I'm just going to add this real quick. Now, I highly recommend saving, and let's test it out. Alright, to make sure that doesn't happen again, I'm scaling this a little bit outwards, so I know it's touching the wall. Then I'm going to scale this to here, to ensure safety, that it works. If your wheels spin the wrong way, you can put reverse spin, and I'm going to turn up the torque. Let's test it out. Alright, nothing is falling apart. And there we go. Now that was a really good fling. So, that just about does it. I hope you learned something today, enjoyed watching, and comment down below if you want a part 2. Yeah, he's not reaching the treasure chest like that.